everyone. Thank you for welcome. Please do join me, Aga and Mattis, who are going to join me on this panel.
Nice to meet you.
So let's sit
Yeah,
down.
let's sit.
Make yourself comfortable. So we're talking about cross-cultural collaboration, opportunities and challenges. As John mentioned, I'm one of the facilitators of the mentoring circles. Also, I have quite an experience of cross-cultural collaboration, both in work, life, and outside. In fact, almost all my friends are not British. Particularly in the workplace, as we're going to see, there are a lot of challenges, and sometimes they're quite subtle, sometimes they're hidden. So I'm looking forward to talking about that. But first, would you like to introduce yourselves? Maybe Aga, go first.
Yeah, I'm Aga. Nice to meet you. I'm originally from Poland. I am currently CEO and founder of Checkturio. My background is in software engineering, and Checkturio does software for trucks and trailers to do digital inspections. And yeah, I have international background, I have to say. So I worked many years for Nokia and also for Here Technologies. I studied in Spain, in Poland. I worked in Finland and lived in Finland. I worked in Germany. So yeah, I was all over the places, and in all the places I worked, it was an international community. So I have to say that I never worked in non-international environment.
Yeah, you seem to have worked almost everywhere.
I mean, not in Asia, right? That's a pity, but...
True. Thanks, Aga. Welcome. Mattis?
Thank you. Yes, my name is Mattis. I'm from the north of Germany. And I'm working for Finn. Finn is a car subscription business, and there I joined roughly 3 years ago as the first engineer in the fleet department, where we're basically buying and selling the cars. Set up 2 teams there, became the VP of that department, and now recently I also took over the finance department. I haven't gotten around as far as Aga. However, I also worked at very, I would say, German companies before, and now my department is spanning 8 to 10 different nationalities. We had people in time zones between Brazil and Singapore. Yes, and now here to talk over the challenges that we faced and also the opportunities that we have with that.
Excellent. So I think you all know about the Slido app. So please do ask us questions, and they should pop up here later on. So I will try to take some. So maybe we can start off. Perhaps you could share some of your key experiences of working cross-culturally, and maybe how the reality was different than from your expectations.
So maybe you start this time?
Yeah. Yes, of course, I can start. So for me, the very base assumption in a team is that everyone or every person is a unique set of experiences, and the more experiences you have, the better the product will be, the better the solution will be. You can look at yourself. When you started without experience, at least for me, my solutions were very shitty, my products were as well, and with experience that increased. So, however, if you take 3 people, the experiences won't triple. So if I look at my 2 best friends and me, we are very similar. The factor of different experiences will be, I don't know, 1.1 or so. However, if I compare that with when I collaborate with people out of my team from very different countries, the factor is way higher. But also the challenges. So one concrete experience that I want to share is we had one person on the team who was quite shy in bigger rounds to speak their mind. And then after the meeting, they came to me and said, why didn't we discuss this and that? And the ideas were very, very good. And I was like, why didn't you share that in the bigger round? That is something that we should definitely have discussed. And they told me that, like in the culture that we had in the company, it's okay to just jump in and share your thoughts. And for their culture, it wasn't. So they were like raised with the idea that they would have to be invited to talk. And like this was an eye-opening experience for me, that my way of collaborating and my okay in such a round is very different from the people that might be on my team.
Yeah, so for me, I think I had a triple shock or cultural shock when I first worked for a German company in Poland, and then I went to Finland. And first of all, it's important to understand that Polish Eastern European culture is different than Western European cultures. So we are more direct, we complain more, we are not taught a teamwork. So this was the first learning for me, working for Nokia in an international company. It was also a cultural shock, being a woman, and the only woman among 100 developers. So this was also very, very difficult, and it has. What are the experiences? I think I first was very shy and took things for granted. It means that I was not assertive. I was not reacting to some stupid jokes, for example. Also, it's hard to imagine. It's like 20 years later that my colleagues didn't shy away from commenting my romantic life in, let's say, to put it nicely. So it was very, very eventful, this experience. And also, Poland is divided. Also, we have bigger cities where we are used to traveling, we are used to work in a bigger company, and smaller towns where this is not the same. And you have also religious aspects, which are not familiar to me, but I learned that. So it's a multicultural experience, and it also takes very long to understand how to adapt to the culture, how to find your position. But similarly as you, I believe that most probably everybody has something in common, regardless where do they come from and if they are, what gender they are. And there must be a team match, right? And then this works out.
Excellent. So I just see one question here that's popped up about your experience at the intersection of being foreign and a woman. You've been talking around that. Is there anything particularly you wanted to add, or do you feel you've already answered that?
Oh yeah, this is. I think what I saw mainly that efficiency of the organizations I worked for was very limited. So it was limited due to the fact that the whole team looked the same, except for me. So it was a room, like my last corporate job before co-founding Checkturio was Here Technologies. I ended up in the room with 40 men, all senior architects. And what was like experiences, we were not able to deliver, we were not able to innovate because everybody saw the things the same. Everybody was also self-content and seeing that they are good experts, everybody should listen to them. So I realized that this group is actually not able to deliver successfully any kind of product, even though they are extremely smart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you've both mentioned there about the advantages of having cross-cultural team members or cross-cultural teams. Can you maybe expand a little bit on how you can make the most of that? I mean, maybe we'll come on to the challenges a little bit more depth, but how is it that you can really make the most of this the advantages, like the example of your team member. How can you actively involve people? And it's tricky, right? Because some of this stuff's hidden. How do you bring it out and really use it?
Yeah, that is true. And I also think it correlates to one of the questions that we have there, how to make sure that shy people speak up and share their mind. So I think the most important thing for you as a leader is to create a psychological safe workspace. So that means you cannot accept when they speak up in the first place that someone like shuts them down. You have to encourage them. You yourself cannot like shut down their ideas. Even if it's not the best idea, you have to encourage them to speak up. What I did with that person is that I have with all my team members regular one-on-ones, and I asked them for, when I saw that there was a discussion where they didn't speak up, I asked them specifically about that, what was the reason, if they have to share anything to share, and then with them find a way how they can comfortably speak up. That can be either by me knowing that they want to share and then asking for their opinion. With one of my team members, I had like this rule that they would raise their hand in Google Meet, and then I would know, okay, they want to say something, and then I would find like the gap for them. And the more they dare to speak up, and the more they learn that it's okay for them to speak up, the more they will proactively share their mind.
Yeah, I like answering this question, and also like working with juniors that are shy. So I have such people also on my team. So I have a multicultural team. I mean, it's roughly 20 people. Engineering team is like 12 people. And what do I do? So first of all, it's important to understand your team. So I talk every week to my team members. To some, there are lead is talking to them to first of all feel what is the temperature, what are the problems. But then I also helped some of my, especially female developers, to speak up. So, for example, one of my backend developers, she's extremely good, but she doesn't speak really, or when she speaks, it sounds as she was almost crying. So we practice. She writes before what she's going to say. She also I asked her to prepare something, so she presented in front of the team, and I also support in the meeting. So, for example, I try to monitor the temperature, and if somebody mentions something very one, 2 words, and I try to basically understand what could be, or asking, oh, you wanted to say something, or you wanted to share that. So basically I try really to help them, and it's especially problem of female developers. They feel overwhelmed and that they don't have enough expertise. I mean, in my case, many female developers, so they are from Turkey. They are great developers, but they are not, maybe it's also a cultural thing, so they are not as courageous.
Mm-hmm. One quick thing, if I may add, I just thought about that. So we both said now that we talk to the shy persons to make sure that they get a bit more extrovert. But what I think is also important to talk to the extroverts on the team and make them understand that there are other people on the team who might not be as extroverted as them, and that they themselves also think about, okay, I haven't heard the voice of that person in the team, maybe I ask them or invite them to speak as well, right?
Sure. I mean, I also think that, it's more to understand what is the purpose of the meeting, because I also don't think it's necessary that everybody has to speak up, in the same time for the same topic. So I also but I agree with you. So it basically requires moderation of everyone.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is the leadership style is to meet people where they are, right? And have this kind of curiosity about each individual person, whether it's a junior or a mid-level, to try and find out what their motivations are and prepare to be surprised, right? There's maybe you talk to them about I don't hear you talking much in meetings. It might be, well, I don't feel it's the need or whatever, and getting underneath that and supporting them to be okay with that and understanding where they are. So I think that's really useful. There's an interesting question there as well then. We're talking quite a lot about individuals and supporting them, but there's a question here about how we create a single, these are up there, right, so I don't have to read them, how you create a single company culture, right? So you've got lots of people with different cultures. How do you actually roll that up into a company culture?
I think important is to have company culture, right? So what is important to me, except for diversity and inclusiveness, is actually having excellent people that are motivated and working together. And it has to be a team that supports each other. I mean, you see, how do you create it? I mean, unfortunately, it's very difficult if you hired people only remotely and they never met in person. The way, I mean, I try to do it, so we started meeting in the office, we started organizing some getting together, even though startup budget is very limited, right? So it's not like what I experienced with corporations where we went on different trips or something. So we order pizza, we drink beer, and this is how we do. But it's very important to do that. And then I think it sort of lives on its own, because if you have like a good team, they will support each other. And also, they also, like, I think there should be nothing that somebody has like one domain and this person only does this and never talks to anyone and never has a cross collaboration. So I think those silos are also not productive for that problem.
Yeah, and I've had experience a long time ago when I was in IBM. We had people from, I think, 5 or 6 different countries with different cultures. Working on the project, and it really wasn't going anywhere. But when we did meet, then things took off, right? That you have a meeting, you make some cultural, physical contact with people, sharing a meal or whatever it might be. That's a real kind of human trait. It's really very hard to replicate on fully remote teams.
One thing from my experience that I wanted to share there is when, like before my job at Finn, I worked at another company where I joined a new office location, which was basically a satellite to their main office location. And we were still both in Germany, but the idea of the company was that we can, from the new office, support the teams that are in the main office. And so we started working together, and it didn't work out very well because the company wasn't used to it. And then what I pushed for was to like have regular in-person meetups in Germany. It's not that incredibly expensive to like bring the people together every now and then. And from then on, when people starting like having a pizza in person together outside of work, that's when the teams really started to click and work out well. So I think that like the in-person part, and that's also what we're doing at Finn now. And every onboarding happens in the office. So when you join Finn, no matter where you're from, you'll be brought to Munich for 7 or 14 days, depends on the role. And you will get to know the people in person that you're going to work with, and you'll get to know the company culture there.
Yeah. So I think the learning there is get that early to help people. Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to come back. I think there's a little bit more we could dig into in about the advantages of having cross-cultural teams or people from different teams. So, I mean, you mentioned this person who had some great ideas that weren't expressed. Is there anything else, maybe some other anecdotes you could share or any advice on how you can really get people to bring their cultural differences to the fore and really kind of leverage them?
I think it's scientifically proven that diversity and teamwork actually brings better results than working individually and working with one point of view. There has been also, like when I worked for Nokia and we had the maps navigation, so we had a study that actually showed that pedestrian navigation was designed for men and not women, that were actually like found it important, how do you make a safe way home through urban areas and not necessarily the quickest one. And apparently most of the navigation apps didn't take it into account, right? So what does it show? It shows that the teams were somehow not designed in the way to take different points of view into account. And I think also, I mean, the products we are doing are for anybody or for different groups. So it's exactly this problem that we need to have different points of view. Otherwise, it's not helping. And yeah, to have an anecdote, I mean, I think that the less productive team that I worked for was when we had, like, in old times, for one of the corporations that I mentioned before, we had like many PhDs, men obviously, in the team, all white men, and I think this was the worst team, delivering the worst, because they had a lot of conflicts, and the performance of their REST services was terrible. The response times of the services, because they had a lot of fight whether who agrees, right? And in that way you create a product that is actually not good.
Yep.
With smart people.
Yep. Smart people that are too similar create things that are too narrow.
Yeah, you also asked about the advantages, and like one very easy advantage for me, it's just way more fun. Like when you work together with 5 times yourself, how fun is that? Compare that with working together with 5 very different people that you can actually learn from, that have like, they're coming from different continents and can share how they grew up, what they learned, what is their normal, what they believe. I think that is so much more exciting than like talking to, yeah, basically same version of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't like directly influence like the value that you create for the company, but still I believe that it's like when you have more fun working, then usually your output will also be better.
Yeah, but I think it also brings certain responsibilities, because you need to have certain empathy for different life situations. So like we have a lot of people that relocated from different parts of the world, and they may have various situations, refugee status, or impacted family members by the war and everything. So it really requires for me responsibility. Like, I mean, startup life is difficult, right? So, I mean, I need to find financing, have a financial plan, but I always need to pay salaries. I always need to make sure they can arrange the office work, right? So it's not like, I mean, that's the thing that I have to provide, you know, on the same day if they ask me, because I could make their life very, very difficult, or I shouldn't be, you know, like, I mean, every lifestyle is good, but maybe somebody has some like issues. I had, you know, like there are different countries like Iran, you know, and We have one employee from Iran, and she had difficult experiences. So it's a big responsibility as well, and not everybody was as privileged as I was growing up and traveling, studying, and.
Yeah. One thing that I quickly want to underline, which I think was really great, what you said, is the empathy that you need as a leader. So I think the more diverse the team gets, the more important for you as a leader it is to be an empathetic leader. I don't know if that's the correct English word. Because it's easy, coming back to my example again, to understand myself in another person, but it's way harder to understand how a different person feels in their life, and I think that was a very good point that you made.
Yeah, it's very tough, I have also employees from Ukraine, and there was the city of one of my employees was bombarded, right, on the night. So then it requires from you actually asking how he is, how his family is, and so yeah, it's a really big deal with all those topics.
Yeah. So, great questions, by the way. Keep them coming. I'm not sure we'll get them. I told you this would go quickly, right? So there's a question here about people from a similar culture sticking together. We also wanted to talk about inclusion in diverse teams and how you can influence that and make it successful, even when it doesn't necessarily come naturally. So that aligns for me with this question about how people stick together. What kind of advice can you give the audience for dealing with that?
So I think, first of all, that's a very good question. And honestly, I think it starts with you. So when you ask, so this question basically asks, how do you change some external factors, how other people behave, how to shape a culture that is external from you, but you as a lead, chances are you hired those people, you are the role model for that culture, so if you change external stuff, you're treating the cure, you're curing the outcome, but you're not fixing the root cause. So I think the answer to that, the first part of answering that question is to answer why are we in that situation, and did you actually make a good job hiring a diverse team? Or did you hire, again, 5 times yourself and then one other person? Obviously then for that person it will be very hard. So when I started at Finn, I had basically 12 roles approved already that I could hire, and I said, okay, I challenged myself to try and hire from 12 different countries, just to make sure that we have as diverse as a team as possible. That's I think the first part to that question. And then when it happens, then it's really, really tough. So that's what we also saw, what I see when I'm going to the office. So the official rule that we have is pick your language behind closed doors, but as soon as doors are open, it's English. But it's just very hard. When there are 5 German people in front of the coffee machine, the go-to language is just German. It's unnatural to then speak a different language. So the only thing that I don't have a great solution for that. What I always did then when I got there, and when you have to train everyone to be empathetic to the people around, and then at least switch to English once a person joins that is not German speaking. And that, I think, at least took a good step in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. I think that everybody does it from us. I do it as well, even though I wouldn't like only to stick to certain bubble, but everybody has this tendency. How to tackle it? I think that each team has some goal, and you hired for the team in the way that you wanted to have success. So I mean, this team is not necessarily everybody are similar, right? So like I give you an example of my like front-end team, for example. So everybody is different. So you can sort of shape it by shaping the team. But this sticking, because sticking together also has some like in your free time or chatting together, sometimes you can't stop it. Also, some people can work very well, but they not necessarily want to stick with other people. So I think it has to be an open culture that you don't require it from your employees, right? That they need to stick together, because what does it mean if like I have an employee that she has 2 children, so maybe she doesn't stick for a beer in the evening, and it's still okay because she's a great employee. What does it matter if she wants to hang out for a beer? So I think that it's difficult, and I think, yeah, I also make it because my friends, you know, like you live in your world, also political views, everything nowadays is sort of bubbles. But I think one needs to look if this works out somehow, right? So, I mean, you can't make it perfect or ideal in that setup.
Mm-hmm. So I'm hearing you both talk, and I'm impressed by how naturally this seems to come to you, dealing with different people and treating them as individuals and being empathetic. There's probably some people here that are listening to us and thinking, you know, where do I start? Do you think there's a role in training? Is there things that can be taught, or do you have to do this through trial and error? Where do people start?
It's actually a good transition from what you said. So sticking with people that are similar is, I think, somewhat called similarity bias. And like biases are not per se very bad if you look at the evolution of mankind, because like thousands of years ago it was very important for our brains to be very quick in making a call whether something is dangerous or not. However, right in our modern society, like nothing is really going to kill you that fast. So, but these biases are still there in us, and those unintentional biases, a lot of people don't really know about in the first place, which is why they are called unintentional. Also, so if you want to start as a company there, I think it's a very good idea to train people on what an unintentional bias actually is, and then also. And then it's basically up to the people and you helping the people to reflect on it. Because only then, like when you know what the bias is and you reflect on yourself on whether, like, how did I make this decision? Was it like truly a conscious decision on rational arguments, or was it a bias in myself that I was grown up with that made this call for me?
I mean, for me, I mean, corporation is one thing. So I think in corporation, it's about training and, you know, addressing the problem. In smaller companies, I think there are no means to have such like professional training. But yeah, I'm very pragmatic. So I think you can only prove you are diverse if your team is diverse, if you manage to hire like a reasonable amount of also women in engineering. So like what I personally hate on Women's Day is this, like, I don't know how it's called, pink washing, or like, you know, like everybody with a photo, like this is the Women's Day. I mean, and I just wrote on the Women's Day, yeah, Checkturio has 50% of female developers, right? So I don't have to prove it in that terms. Obviously, there are many things that I could improve, and I want to improve, but I believe that if you don't face some problems yourself, you may not know how to you will still have biases in your judgment. And also the other aspect is, I think, salaries. So this is something very difficult because you want to have some expert, and this expert requests you to pay more than you could pay based on your whole team. And yeah, I had such a situation that I actually let my junior developer leave us because I was not able to pay him the salary as high as my senior team members, because you have to treat people fairly, and so exactly you have to do everything in practice, right? So ensure there are not gender pay gaps and also ethnic pay gaps, or like that somebody also, show your team if it's diverse, right? And diversity doesn't mean it has to be like if you are in Germany in some very specific German business. Diversity could be juniors, seniors from different backgrounds, gender. I mean, diversity is everywhere, right? So it's not doesn't have to that you have to hire somebody from Asia, right? If you have no capability to do so.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good. Another couple of good questions here. So let's have a look at this top one. I mean, we're talking about cultural collaboration, but it can rapidly lead into stereotyping. Do you find stereotyping is useful, or is it a total distraction?
I'll go first.
Yeah, I mean, stereotypes. I think these stereotypes, are they useful? I think that it very much depends how is your hiring process built, and like how you get to know your candidates, and maybe then in the probation time, how you see does the stereotype is useful. I mean, everybody uses some stereotypes. Like I can give you an example. So I have working students, and I hire them from best German universities in computer science field, because I decided, and I'm using a stereotype, and it actually doesn't mean that there are not great talents in schools that are not on the top 5 list. But because I don't have enough means to look for everyone, and also to, so I use that stereotype. It's maybe not great, but unfortunately I don't have this, other way. What is the other stereotype? I think that even women have stereotypes. I mean, because you usually would say that stereotype is, for example, man is good at programming, female not so much in maths and so on. But I also have, some stereotypes, or I really need to, think about this, that I'm judging sometimes too strongly, because I am very sensitive about gender discrimination. I also have been always a foreigner everywhere, right? So I also sometimes do it that I'm oversensitive, because some people don't mean, right? So I also use stereotypes of a male, for example, programmer, right? But obviously we should get better on that. We should be aware of this and improve.
Mm-hmm. Anything you want to add, Mattis?
Yes, so I'm not 100% sure if I'm getting the question, or like the core of the question correctly. But one thing that I want to add that I saw on, so when we are having performance reviews at Finn, we have a calibration round where basically every leader comes up with a suggestion on performance rating, merit increase, and promotion, yes, no. And there, what I saw is that a lot of people had like an image of a person independent on male, female, or country, or whatever, but like they used to see a strong performer as a strong performer basically forever, and they only saw like the strong parts of their performance from the last 6 months, and they wouldn't really see the not so great part, the areas for improvement, because they were searching for ways to confirm their view of someone, basically. So I think it doesn't really it's not the perfect answer to the question, but that's like where I think stereotypes are quite dangerous at work.
Yeah. Okay. So they can be useful in moderation, a bit like beer. So our future as a panel is getting rapidly shorter, but the future of cross-cultural teams and globalization is probably getting bigger, although certain barriers are coming in the geopolitical arena. But what kind of challenges do you foresee might happen regarding diverse teams, cross-cultural working?
I think that like what today I find very difficult is to assess properly the candidates, because sometimes I don't have knowledge about different, like job markets in different countries or in different continents. So I think this is one thing that is becoming for me more difficult. Sometimes, like many years ago, it was very easy. Like, okay, this is like good university, good work, and now it's not the case. It's the same also like with having long-term employment, right? So this basically now changed. Some people are forced to change their jobs, and so it's also not the way to judge it. And then eventually, what I'm struggling now is also usage of AI in testing. Like we have some tests for programmers, So we had a candidate that was very nervous presenting his repository, and then he said he wrote it with ChatGPT, and I didn't hire him, because you could say, okay, he's smart enough to use it and to pass the test, but I somehow thought that maybe for basic tasks you should be able to do it yourself, right? But I seem to have now challenges, and I could think that there are many cases I don't recognize that it's generated content, right? So I see this as a challenge. I don't know if it answers this question, but this is my current worry.
I think it answers the question.
Yeah, so first of all, I would love the trend. As I said, I'm having a lot of fun working with different people, and I hope that with more and more companies becoming remote, reference to the first talk today, I think return to office is a diversity killer, because it basically shrinks down the job market to whoever is close to the office or willing to relocate. So I hope that at least the companies that I work for don't do that, and that they will stay as at least hybrid as they are. And with that, I think we will have more and more people from different countries, diverse backgrounds, applying for the same role. It will get harder to hire the right people, because it gets more. You will get to see more people and more different differences. And with that, also like the challenges that we face right now will just magnify, I guess.
And do you think that the hybrid working, return to office, how does that impact on cross-cultural working?
Yeah, I said so. If the company says you have to like return to office, you will basically cut off the 100% remote people. So I'm one example. If Finn says you have to come back to the office, I'm living 900 kilometers away from the office. I won't relocate for it, so I will be gone. And I think that will hold true for a lot of people. So, and also right now, I have the luxury to say I don't really care where a person lives. I can hire them. If the guideline is to like have them in the office, I have to convince them not only of Finn and the team of Finn, but also of the city of Munich to relocate. So as I said, I think return to office is just like a super strong offender to having a diverse cross-cultural team.
Yeah, I mean, I have other challenges because as most of the European startups to do the AI-related research and development, many companies rely on public funds. And public funds, for good reason, they want to maintain the local job market. So for my AI-related projects, I have to employ in Berlin-Brandenburg, or at least half of the time, of like 2 years is the life cycle, and then 1 year at least with registration in Berlin-Brandenburg. And I cannot change it because otherwise I don't get money. I need to send registration of each employee. So this is my challenge. However, I don't request anyone to come to the office, right? So, I mean, this is not a problem. But the problem is that I have to follow the guidelines if I receive the, I mean, those are European funds, but are handled by Investitionsbank Berlin-Brandenburg, and the requirement is that they live here. And it's nothing I can do about it, or not use the funds, right?
Yeah.
But it's also difficult because business angels or investors, especially in Europe, they are they are risk averse in comparison to the US. So it's very difficult to get a funding for AI research if you have a prospect of 2-3 years, maybe to have something, maybe you fail. So public grants and loans are a great measure to address this, but they come with certain requirements.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, both of you, for sharing your experiences and expertise. I know it's been very interesting for me, and I hope you've all enjoyed it as well. Are you around for the rest of the day?
Of course.
Yeah, so
yes.
if there were some questions we didn't get to, so feel free to come and grab us, and we can be happy to discuss them. Thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.